Hi, Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. One of the things that attracted me to wood turning in the first place is the opportunity to make large wood bowls. Now, I don't turn them all that often because it's hard to get large wood. And in fact, it nearly always has to be wet wood or green wood to start with in order to get the right size. Then the problem with wet wood is that you have to wait months to do it unless you resort to some fancy drying techniques, most of which I find too much hassle to be worth it. But I am left with the problem of having to wait, say, months in order to finish up a bowl. So let's turn this bowl from ash that has been 6 months in the making.
This is a big block of very wet or green ash. It is nearly 17 inches across, hopefully in the shorter dimension. I need to turn this while still wet. Why? Well, first, wet wood is easier to turn. Second, it can dry in less than 6 months instead of multiple years. While wet turning does risk some cracks, so does drying it whole. Fortunately, my lathe has a 20-inch turning diameter. On smaller blocks, cutting off the corners is optional, but this is required for this size of wood before I can mount and turn the wood. For a block of this size and weight, I have to use a metal faceplate screwed to the face. I will not risk any lesser mounting technique. Since the wood is fairly uniform in thickness, I'm tooling some of this area first. It is a pleasure to turn this wood wet while soft, except for the bath I get from water flying off the wood. As I get a complete cut around the wood, I can start whittling down the perimeter. It is always easier to cut into side grain instead of end grain. With the wood round, I need to cut a tenon plus another relief cut that will guide my eye to form the bottom. I want a good flare to the bottom rather than a deep squarish bowl. The tenon fits my largest chuck jaws. Hollowing a wet bowl is a joy compared to dry wood. Dust is not an issue, and by now the shower from the outside water flying off has moderated. I'm using my large bowl gouge first to trim the surface, then to remove wood. A hogging cut cutting outward is a great way to remove a lot of wood quickly, since it is cutting side grain. It is not a precision cut, but very effective. With a lot of wood removed, I can take slower cuts from the perimeter towards the middle. However, these are harder since I'm cutting alternating end and side grain. I'm leaving a thick wall to accommodate expected potential warpage. With the bowl rough turned, I rely on a wood sealer to moderate moisture loss while it is drying. I want the moisture to escape, but I want it to be even throughout the thickness. The sealer retards but does not prevent the moisture. It has the consistency of wood glue. It goes on nearly white, but dries almost clear with a slight blue-green tint. Every few weeks I weigh the bowl and record its weight. This wood is 39% lighter now that it is dry. That's a bit above average for my experience. The key is to leave it until it stops getting lighter. Now that the wood is dry, I'm pressing it against a large wood faceplate with the live center. However, sealer has filled the original center point. I'm punching it again to get a good mount point. As you can see, there is warpage. This was expected. Now I need to first recut the tenon, then refine the outside. Here my favorite cut is a shearing cut with the gouge nearly vertical, making very light cuts with very little pressure. I'm trying to leave a slight additional flare to mark the bowl lip. The only problem is the tenon is just a little too small for the large jaws. I have to remount it and cut a smaller tenon for smaller jaws. Then on to turning the interior down to a reasonable wall thickness. This is bowl gouge work to remove the warpage and thin down the wall. Then I switch to a heavy bowl scraper for the bottom. The wood is definitely dry and much harder now than when I first started this bowl over 6 months ago. But it will be uniformly round. A lot of sanding follows. Now to refine the foot. I've mounted the wood in large coal jaws. There is a speed limit on the jaws, so turning is not as easy for the small foot area. With the large diameter, the speed limit makes sense, so I'm respecting the limit. Then sand and sign the foot area. A couple of circles decorate the bottom. Finally, a good bath in walnut oil completes the bowl. No instant gratification here. This took over 6 months from first tool touch. Still, I love turning large bowls when I can get the wood. This is one reason I purchased a lathe of this size. The grain is pronounced and beautiful. This is a keeper. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe on my website, tell your friends, and send me your comments and questions. Every week I make a new wood turning video. Please wear your full face shield anytime the lathe is running. Until next week's video, this is Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.